My name is Brandy Wilson. I'm from Sedalia, Missouri. I was in the kitchen and I was opening a can of peaches because I was going to make a peach cobbler. And my kids were in the backyard playing, and my 10-day-old baby was in the swing asleep. And it was a really nice day out, and everything changed suddenly when I started to have chest pain. And the pain went from my chest into my left arm and then into my back. And honestly, my first thought was that I was having a heart attack. I had to lay down on the couch because I could feel myself losing, I had no energy. I literally couldn't stand up anymore. I was sweating icy bullets, and by the time my mother-in-law showed up here, I couldn't feel my left arm, and my mother-in-law called 911 and told them that I was having a heart attack. I just felt like I was dying, and I knew it was coming. And so they did finally take me in the back and do an EKG, which showed what is called a STEMI, or what a lot of people know as a widowmaker. They started working me over for a heart attack and got me ready to get in a helicopter. And I said goodbye to my husband, and they flew me to Colombia. And then I was sent up to ICU, where I then went into flash pulmonary edema and respiratory distress. I got to go down to the progressive care unit the next day and I spent 2 or 3 days there, and I begged Dr. Woods to let me go home because I had babies, and he was very reluctant because he said, you're very sick. And they did an echocardiogram, and I had fluid around my heart, and I was very sick, but I didn't know it because I thought they had fixed me. I went back and forth to the hospital several times because I kept having, I would just suddenly go blind. I would start to feel dizzy, and then I would have no vision, and I didn't know what was happening, and I just assumed it was normal, so no big deal. And but then when I started, I got to where I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to the bathroom because if I walked to the bathroom, I felt chest pain so bad it was crushing me. And so I went to the hospital after one of the episodes where I couldn't see anything, and they did kept me in the hospital a few days and then put me on what's called an event monitor. And the event monitor showed that I was having frequent episodes of ventricular tachycardia, where the bottom of your heart beats, a couple hundred beats a minute, and the top of your heart is beating regular, so they're not in sync, so the blood is not perfusing. And they called me at home and said, please come back. You're going to essentially die if you don't come back to the hospital. I guess maybe a year after the heart attack, I was still having crushing chest pain all the time. And I went back to Dr. Woods, and it was for a checkup, and he asked me if I had chest pain, and I said, isn't it a normal thing? And he said, no, you shouldn't be walking around with chest pain. And he said, my gut tells me that we need to do another catheterization and look inside your heart and see what's going on. And they went in and did it, and unfortunately the artery was so dissected that it wasn't able to hold the stents, so the stents went down into another artery, and the artery completely closed off again. He said the good news is that you didn't have another heart attack when that artery closed off, because you have collateral vessels, little vessels that build, happens with older people a lot. But these vessels come because of a closed off vessel or a weakened vessel. And he said, so you didn't have another heart attack, and that's great. He said, but the bad news is that you will need a heart transplant. That was 9 years ago, and I'm on my second pacemaker and defibrillator because the batteries do die on them. And I told my husband, I really want to be a nurse now. And he said, okay, do whatever you think you need to do. And so I enrolled at the local community college here in August of 2010, and in May of 2014 I graduated as a registered nurse. And honestly, my passion for nursing came from my own experience, and then also having wonderful nurses that took care of me when I was sick, and so that's how I got to where I am today.